Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is our first webcast episode of Let's Get Personal with ESU. And this webcast has been brought to you by Employment Services Unit of Saskatoon Open Door Society. Let me just introduce myself quickly. My name is Jay Sim, and I'm an employment counselor working at ESU. And I just want to explain why we are starting this webcast as well. So it is to offer a space for newcomers and employer partners to share their personal stories and their own perspectives. And it is also to build on ongoing relationships between our clients and employer partners and Saskatoon Open Door Society and maintain those good relationships. It is also to share a message of empowerment, resilience, and it is also just to have fun. So we're gonna have fun, we're gonna just do that. Now, let me introduce our first guest speaker today. Her name is Hlady. She is a manager of HR and Communications Department for Loraas. Hello, Lauren.
Hi, Jay. Nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for joining us today. So yeah, let me just start asking you by some background questions. Could you talk about yourself a little bit and what do you do exactly and where are you from?
Well, like you said, my name is Hlady. I have been working at Loraas Disposal North here in Saskatoon as the manager of HR and Communications. I've been with the company for almost 7 years now, and it's been really interesting to kind of watch it grow and see my position change and grow as I go along with it.
Awesome. So could you talk about maybe your hometown as well, like where you grew up and how did that experience like influence you and like shape you?
So I haven't always lived in Saskatoon. I've been here for about a decade on and off now, but I grew up in a small town called Maple Creek, Saskatchewan. And if you're familiar with Saskatchewan at all, it's in the very, very southwest corner in between basically Alberta and the United States border. There's us right there, a hop, skip, and a jump away from Cypress Hills Interprovincial Park. And it's definitely a lot different growing up in a small town than being in a big city. You know everybody knows you. They know that you're Pat or Randy's daughter. And it's really, I gained a very strong sense of community when I was living there. You know that there are people who are helping each other out no matter what situation there is. There is that sense that you just need to lend a helping hand because it's what you need to do and it's what someone will do for you as well.
Right. See, I really like that about Saskatoon too. It's a rather small city, right? But like sometimes my Korean friends ask me like, why Saskatoon? Why not Vancouver or Toronto? But like, I like that sense of community in here too. Yeah, and I don't know, I like that about like small cities and small towns. I think it's amazing.
Saskatoon does have a feel of a small town, and I think it's because you do have a lot of people who come from small towns who end up going to the big city, even though Saskatoon is not a big city, and you have that still that sense of community that's here. And Saskatoon has a wonderful vibe and it has a strong sense of community as well, and I think it's very apparent in our city. So it made that transition very, very smooth as well to move here.
So how did you start working for Loraas?
I applied as a part-time HR assistant. I had only 4 classes in my one term. One of them had ended quite early, and I thought I've got too much time on my hands now, so maybe I'll look for a part-time job. I saw the posting for this and clicked right away with the company. I love that it's a family-owned organization, and there's a lot of nurturing that went along in it. During my interview, I asked, because I'm still a student, is there a possibility for full-time hours in the summertime? And when I was working kind of 2 days a week throughout the first term of university, I was able to kind of build up that experience and rapport with the company. They wanted me to stick around full-time in the summer. And then I had a couple of classes finishing up my degree, and they allowed me to work part-time for the rest of it. The rest is kind of history. I ended up taking over the maternity leave position for my supervisor, and that was a huge challenge and learning experience, but Loraas had fostered, me and my growth here, and really invested a lot in me in my education and professional development. And so I was able to continue on. I took a year off to go backpacking around the world, which is just one of my passions. And then, yeah, they invited me back in, and I've just continued to grow in the company ever since here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like what do you value the most in your hiring practices? If you can just pick out one thing.
Yeah, I think I really value, or what I look for specifically, is someone showing who they are and letting their personality shine through. There is a strong sense of culture that's here, and not everyone kind of would fit in. We really have that emphasis on customer service, and that's how we built our brand. And I feel like if you are genuine in expressing yourself and you care for other people, you have that inner sense of customer service, whether it's externally for someone who is looking to provide a service or gain a service from you, or with your coworkers. I really want to see kind of that genuineness, and so that's something that I really value. I think one of the worst things that you can do if you come into an interview, and I know that it's hard because I know that you can be very nervous sometimes, but the worst thing is to just recite your resume and all the, the experience that you've had word for word, what you've already got. And I don't get to see who you are as a real person. And I want to get to know you as an individual, and see if you're going to click with the organization. Not everyone does. So I think that's what I really value most is someone who can show me who they genuinely are right off the bat.
What would be like the example or like your experience with someone showing that genuineness in their personality? Do you have any like some examples on top of your head?
Yeah, I think right away I'll try and get someone to loosen up and not be so nervous. So you start a conversation. If someone can really say their passion for whatever it is, a hobby that they've got, and tie it into how they are genuinely as a person. A specific example, I'm a big fan of astronomy, and I had a individual come in and ask, tell me a little bit about yourself. What is a hobby that you have? And they had clicked and said astronomy, and you could see the way that their eyes lit up, and him and I had just a nice rapport back and forth of everything that we love to like geek out on when it came to astronomy. You were able to see where that passion lies, and they become more comfortable. And then you can get down to those answers of, how they respond in certain situations, because you're more relaxed now, and then you don't need to stress about other things. So
Right.
that would be, I guess, an example that I had.
So that's a really great example, and it's funny because astronomy was also one of my favorite subjects.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah,
And I'm going to go on a little bit of tangent here, but when
go
you
ahead.
see Saturn for the first time through a telescope, and you can see the rings, and you're like, man, this is not even like a big fancy telescope. You're like, wow, the universe is right there. And I was sold ever since.
I have this magnet that says, back in my days, there were 9 planets. I just love the magnet.
Or Pluto.
Yeah, exactly. My next question is like, what is the most common myth or some type of like belief that is incorrect about your field or like in your profession that you kind of want to debunk?
Yeah, I feel like there's still a bit of a lingering stereotype around human resources, and that if you think of like Roz from Monsters Inc., who was like, Wazowski, you failed to fill out your paperwork, or like Toby from The Office, where it's very subdued and just, there to follow the rules. Yes, of course, we're there to follow the rules. Yes, of course, we need to have paperwork. But with human resources, it's so much more than just hiring and firing or making sure that the files are in order. You're really there to help the individuals that are working for your organization. Sometimes they may not see that way. But that is the crux of it. And that's why I think the majority of us get into human resources, is because we wanted to work with people. We wanted to, make those connections and make the workplace a better place for everybody. And I think that's definitely one stereotype, that there's a lot of really great work that's being done to help kind of debunk that and change the perspective of HR. But there's still that lingering, oh, I gotta go talk to HR and it's gonna be really scary. Like, that's not my goal, and my goal is always to help individuals as much as I can, and as much as they want to be helped as well.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a common myth that people absolutely sometimes have, but I think you're the right person to debunk that myth, right? As a representative.
There's a wonderful amount of people in our professional field that are making leaps and bounds and strides to help shape the workplace and change it from that sort of, this is just the black and white, this is what we need to do, here's the files that we need to have, make sure everything is order, to really focusing on how are we supporting our employees in a number of different ways, and as those needs change, how are we adapting to it? I mean, something that I'm quite passionate about in the workplace is promoting positive mental health, working with our employee and family assistance program providers to make sure that employees know that those resources are there. You do have someone that you can reach out and talk to when you're struggling before it becomes a really big deal. I mean, you look at the data with Blue Cross, you look at everything that's coming through with WCB, and the claims that are associated with mental illness is increasing, and it's on the rise. And I think, in one way, it's really great because people are getting the help that they need. But in another way, I really think that there's a lot of preventative work that we can be doing and should be doing as employers and individuals in general, to help support our coworkers and our friends that we work with here. I mean, you have 1 in 5 Canadians who will suffer from some sort of mental illness in their lifetime. That is not a obscure number, that people that are or have or will have in the future. And I mean, if we can get systems in place, if we can get practices in place, if we can demystify some of that that stigma that's there, I think that's just, all the better that we can do that, for sure.
I think it's really great that you focus on positive mental health. Like when we talk about mental health issues, we usually tend to focus on like negative aspects of like mental disorders, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or we often focus on post measures of diseases, which is also important, but we never really talk about, or we rather ignore the preventative measures. So I think it's really great that that's also your focus. Just great. How did you come to work with ESU, and how have your like experiences been in general with us?
Terrible. No, it's been wonderful. I think we started with the ESU through the We Connect job fair, and participating in that, I can hands down say it's one of our favorite job fairs of the year. You always go a bit above and beyond for giving not just the employers a wonderful experience, but the people who are attending and looking for jobs a wonderful experience as well. And that's something that the Open Door Society has done a wonderful job with, is just really focusing on the individuals. And I want to commend you guys on that. We have, I think we had reached out with the ESU to start doing mock interviews. Was another way where we had a chance to get to work with the ESU, and it's a fun experience. I think it's really great. It's a wonderful opportunity to help run through with individuals and maybe shake off nerves that they might have for having an interview here, and getting to know the individuals that are coming into the labor market and are looking for jobs. We've also had the chance to do employer showcases, which were really fun. Myself and my coworker Angie, actually, when we were in the peak of, I think, quarantine and pandemic time, we had a chance where we were just going from our homes and doing our videos with the employer showcase. So that's been really great as well, interacting with the ESU. It's been really fantastic. And I know that you guys are always continually reaching out, and we've utilized the Open Door Society in a number of different ways too.
Well, thank you for commending us, and I also want to thank you for, continuing this wonderful partnerships to help out our clients and also, bring the awareness about the job fair to the public as well. So, thank
Definitely.
you.
I think we're looking forward to the virtual job fair as
Me
well.
too.
I
Yes.
love the in-person ones are so great.
Right.
But yeah, the We Connect job fair that was virtual last year worked out really well too. And we're looking forward to it for sure for this year coming up. I think it's going to be very successful.
Likewise, I hope it to be too, and I expect it to be. What is your biggest passion in life?
Travel. I don't know if you can see, but I've got some of my travel pictures from
Oh,
back here.
yes.
There's more that are over there. From a young age, I got hooked. I did a term abroad in Sweden. I lived there for 6 months, and that was an eye-opening experience. It's interesting to be in a place where you don't speak the primary language, very much an eye-opener. It was fortunate where in Sweden and a lot of Scandinavian countries, they did have a strong background in English. So I was able to find someone who could help me out and communicate and navigate that way. But it really, it started a passion and a love of exploring different places for me. We live in such a big, beautiful world that has so much to offer and so many different things to see that it really just kind of ignited that sort of passion for me. And so don't tell my parents, but I didn't spend as much time studying abroad as I just was like traveling abroad and also studying kind of. Um, but for the most part, like I really got a chance to see different countries. I got to explore different cities, and even just getting a taste of a different culture that was there was really, really wonderful. In my dorm, I lived with people from 10 different countries, all on one flat. And it was just, you really got a chance to see that there are different perspectives and things that you think is such a straightforward way of like, oh yeah, everybody knows that. It's common sense. Common sense doesn't really work when you have different backgrounds and different perspectives that have shaped what that is to a different person. So that was one thing that really was such an eye-opener for me. And it really, gave me a good understanding of what, diverse backgrounds and what diverse education and experiences can really bring to the table for everybody. And ever since then, I've just been traveling and exploring, and not being able to leave the country has been very difficult right now. I always have a place where I've got kind of a travel plan coming up next. And so it's been a little bit tricky to, you get to explore Canada, which in itself is such a big, beautiful place that you can't get even close to anywhere seeing everything. Yeah, I would definitely say travel is number one. You meet so many amazing people when you're traveling, and it's so much fun.
Right. I mean, you said like you didn't really study like when you did like study abroad, but like I would say you've studied like plenty because you study people and their stories and their experiences, right? So that's another learning, I would say.
It's an education, definitely. I mean, yes, I still went to classes. Yes, I did all that, but it was an education in a way that I didn't really anticipate as much as I did. I thought, oh, it's going to be a really fun time. And, I've always wanted to travel. So I've always wanted to go to school in a different place. So I'm going to do that. Yeah, no, it was an education in a completely different way. And it sounds very cliche, but it changed my life. I was an accounting major before then. And I was like, I'm not an accounting major. I need to be with people. And I ended up switching my major and went into human resources immediately after I got back, actually. It really shaped my life in a very different way than it probably would have been beforehand.
See, I think that's something that I can also relate to, like, majoring in something and then changing into something totally different, right? After experiencing something that's like personal and meaningful to you. Like my major was not psychology at all, but when I started working with like people and I started noticing some problems that I want to also like wanted to help out, that's why major got like decided on that moment. It's like, and it's like totally different majors too. So yeah, I think like I really recommend high school students to like not go to university right away for like experience or like travel like you did a little bit and then maybe decide what they want to do.
Well, how wonderful that you found a passion in something that really inspired you and probably made you better at psychology because of it, because you had that passion that's there.
Exactly. Yeah. So on a slightly different note, what were your past challenges or failures, and how did you sort of overcome them?
Past challenges, well, I mean, we're in a challenge right now with this pandemic that's there. Um, it's been a challenging time for sure. And I think a failure that I had was a failure to understand and kind of merge in, or what I felt like as a failure. I'm an emotional person at the best of times. I think I cry when I laugh all the time, and I'll just feel quite a bit. In some situations, we had to unfortunately do a few emergency layoffs, or those temporary layoffs. And as much as you kind of know from a cerebral level or from intellectually, this is what you have to do at this time, unfortunately, but this is how it is. That doesn't always, match up with what your heart feels or how you feel internally, emotionally. And so I would get a bit emotional as we would go on with a number of these layoffs that we had to do. And it's something that the company has never really done in our 50-year history in any sense. So for everybody, it really was a big sense of shock and a big challenge. And we all, I think, in some ways felt like a failure. And I had to, and it took me a little while to kind of get in, and probably a lot of tears in my boss's office to kind of get through. But that understanding of, if we don't care and if we don't feel, then we're not doing our job properly. We're not, we in human resources and in management and in those supervisory or the leadership roles, we really do need to have that genuine caring. If you don't care about your people, and human resources, I mean, we care about everybody in the company. That's our job. We are, for everyone. If we don't have that caring, we're not going to be able to be successful in our jobs. You can have those technical skills, but you really need to be able to connect to people emotionally. You need to be able to have empathy. You need to be able to feel, and it's okay to be upset about a situation. And you just need to kind of remind yourself, you know what, you're feeling this way because you do care about the individuals, because you care about the outcome, you care that it's affecting their lives. And so, having this little breakdown or feeling this sad this way is all right. And getting through that and getting to that knowledge and that understanding, a lot of that comes from, I'm a big advocate of our employee family assistance program and talking to a professional. I am not a professional in any case when it comes to that type of thing and working through mental health. And so it can be really wonderful to have that person who is specifically trained to handle those sorts of situations and give you tools that can help you to get through a situation, whether you're learning how to box breathe or whether it's just having a third-party person to talk to who has zero interest in the outcome of the situation and is just that ear to listen to, and you can get something off of your chest. It's really, I think it's a necessity from a human resources professional's perspective. You need to have someone who's going to be that sounding board for you. And because you are a lot of the time dealing with a lot of the stresses that everyone is going through in your organization, you end up taking that on as well. In some sort of way, you need to have that outlet. I also have a very strong support system with my friends and family. And so I will definitely be like, hey, I've had a really bad day. I need to vent for a little while and go through there. I think you've got to have that strong support system in place to help you get through those challenging times. And whether that's, someone who's at work who is a champion for you, whether it is, a friend or a family member at home, and along the side of the guidance with a professional to help you get through as well.
I think that's a really great set of advices that you just explained there. Yeah, I mean, even my dad, he's in HR, and he's been in HR more than the age of my years. Like, he's been in HR for like 30 some years.
Mm-hmm.
And back in 1990s, Korea had like this big financial crisis where we needed assistance from IMF.
Mm-hmm.
And so we needed to like lay off a lot of people. And the guy, my dad being the HR guy, he had to lay off a lot of people who has been working side by side with him for like more than 20 years. And he's like, people often don't look at like both sides. They really can't, because the other side being laid off is obviously very tragic and it's sad. But also like my dad, like he didn't know how to like go through with this, because he didn't have those like measures and methods and the advices that you have right now. He didn't know how to handle his mental state, because being the guy and very traditional conservative guy. So I wish that I knew those like advices to help him out in that like difficult times. And I think it's really great that we get to hear these advices now, because we have more awareness. So yeah, thank you, Lauren. That's really great.
I'm really pushing for that awareness, and even within our organization, I made sure, and we're working towards getting all of our supervisors and managers and those in leadership positions trained up on mental health first aid. A part of it is to help with that acute identification and assistance, but a lot of it is just working towards breaking down the stigma and then understanding that there are resources that are there, and kind of demystifying what mental health is all about, and I can only imagine that, that sort of conservative background where you don't talk about your feelings or you don't talk about your emotions. And even now still with mental health, it's got a bit of a taboo, but I think that, there are wonderful organizations out there that are really promoting talking about mental health. I mean, the Bell Let's Talk campaign is such a it's such a visual reminder for everyone. And I think the more and more that we go along and more people are talking about it, the better it's just going to be for everybody as a whole.
Yeah, I think I really like the mental health first aid training. Is it like 12 hours or?
Yeah, it's a 2-day course, and it is a impactful course, I would say. It's and yeah, the Canadian Mental Health Association, their website will give you a link to all the courses that are being offered. And I mean, we try and make sure that only one employee goes through at a time, just because a lot of the subjects are very personal, and it can give a little bit more comfort to those who maybe don't necessarily feel like sharing something that's related to them, or a family member that that they just don't want to share with their coworker. But for the most part, it's been very well received here with us, and I love to promote it. I think it's a wonderful course.
I agree, absolutely. Like I got that training when I was a student of U of S, and like U of S students get discount, I believe. So it's great.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I'm gonna move on to our last question. So that would be, what advice would you give to newcomers who are looking for a job here?
Be yourself. I think that if you were a newcomer, you were bringing such a wonderful and diverse background and a different set of circumstances and a different way of looking at problems, or at finding new solutions. I really would advise you to be yourself and really showcase who you are. Let your personality shine through. I mean, your resume will let your resume will do the talking of those technical skills. So I really want to hear kind of who you are as an individual and what you bring to the table.
That's such a great advice. Yeah, I wish I had that advice when I came here in Saskatoon in the first place. Yeah, so that's the end of all of our questions for Lauren today. Thank you again, Lauren, for such great advices and on our conversation, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jay. Had a wonderful time. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, so our second guest speaker will be Marcia Rose, owner and a founder of the Cast Iron Kitchen. Hi, Marcia. How are you?
Hi, Jay. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for joining us today, and I'm really excited for our conversations as well.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, not a problem. Could you briefly talk about yourself? Like, what do you do and how you got to Saskatoon?
Well, for starters, my name is Marcia Chirisa. Rose is my other name.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. So I am originally from Zimbabwe. When we got married years ago, my husband and I decided we didn't want, he lived in England then, and I didn't want to live there. So we immediately thought of looking for a different place to raise our family and live. So he got a job here in Canada, and I came along as a supporting spouse. I am the owner of Cast Iron Kitchen Inc., which is a family catering business. I am also a very proud stay-at-home mom that has shaped my life for the greater portion of the time that we've lived here in Canada. So yeah, that's basically a little bit about myself. We have 4 beautiful kids who keep me on my toes.
Yeah, how do you like manage being stay-at-home mom and like, looking after your kids and also running a business?
Oh my goodness, is that even manageable? I don't think you can manage it. It's tough because the stay-at-home mom part came first, and then I'm trying to put a business in that.
Mm-hmm.
I think what makes it a little bit somewhat manageable is just planning. I have to organize my life. I have to know what we are doing, when we are doing it. And if I'm meeting somebody or if I'm having plans with somebody else, it is so important for me to know beforehand what we are doing. And if there's any cancellation, I like to know soon enough so that I can adjust my schedule, because there's always something to do. But it is really difficult because the family itself has to adjust to you not being able to be available 24/7. You have to say, guys, I'm busy. Like right now, I'm like, get out of the way. Mommy's busy. So yeah, I think basically you just have to bring the family on board so that they understand how different life is going to be now that there's a business in it. And the rest just kind of, you just do as you go, do what you can.
I guess what I'm getting from that is that you continuously communicate with your family so that they are also on board, right? Like with your.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because if they don't know what you're doing, then they don't understand why all of a sudden you can't do certain things you used to do with them at that particular time.
Can you elaborate more on your like hometown? Like how did that experience of growing up there like influence you and shape your like I guess personality?
Oh, wow. I don't think I have a specific hometown that I grew up in. It was moving between my dad's place, my mom's place, and my grandma's. But the part that really influenced me the most is probably my mom and my grandma's side, because I got to see the strong women that they were and how they worked tirelessly day in, day out to make sure that they take care of people around them. Like, for example, in our household, alone in my mother's house, it was just never me and my mom and my sister. There was always a cousin, an aunt, or somebody else who my mom was helping, or somebody else my grandmother had sent to my mom's way so that she could help. So I think that has it shaped my life in that I always know that there's always somebody who needs help, and I have to do it. I cannot send somebody else to help another person.
So I guess like, I mean, you did say you moved between different houses and locations, but you're also mentioning that there's always other cousins in the house or like aunties, and so you kind of grew up with a big family. Is that what would you say?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Like on my mom's side, it's just me and my younger sister,
Mm-hmm.
but it never felt like it was just the two of us. There was always people. So yes, it was a big family in a small family, but we made it work. It was so much fun. You don't realize, you don't even worry about having a small space. It's like the more people you have, the more love that's shared around you, the bigger the space gets.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. And now you have a big family too. Goes around full circle, yeah.
It does.
So how did you hear about Women's Business Hub or Employment Services Unit?
Oh, that's a funny story. I always like, every time I think about it, I just smile because so our youngest daughter is turning 5 tomorrow, and so last year, as we were thinking and planning of what's going to happen once all the children are in school, and I like, what am I going to do? What's the next stage for my life? I thought, well, I was thinking more about immigrant people, how they come here, and most of them are just thrown into the society, and it takes time for them to integrate and things like that. Looking into volunteering for starters with immigrant organizations, and I looked at a few in Saskatoon, and I did not really see something that was really speaking to me. Then I remembered, oh, I've always seen the Saskatoon Open Door Society downtown. And so I thought, oh, let me check their website or Facebook page and stuff like that. Mind you, at that point, I was still thinking that all they do is teach English to immigrants who don't like as a second language. So I went on their Facebook page, and I saw that they had posted information about the Women's Business Hub. My heart literally leaped when I saw that, because for years my husband had been saying to me, hey, your cooking is so good, and you're always cooking for family and friends and volunteering at the kids' school, making lunches and stuff like that. You could make money from this. You should turn this into a business. But of course, there are other things, you think about. So when I saw that, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is for me. This is why I'm here. So I hopped on right away with Women's Business Hub, and I was fortunate enough to be part of the first cohort. Yeah.
So it was a combination of your spouse kind of encouraging you, but also like, I guess encountering with the opportunity that was given, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's your spouse, right? He talks, and eventually you sort of learn to dismiss some of the things he says.
Right.
So at that point, I wasn't really thinking, like, I'd forgotten about me wanting to do a business. I mean, I've also wanted to do it, but so when I saw this, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's meant to be. I have to be part of this.
What is it about like starting business? How did that like attract you?
So my husband works away from home for the most part, and which is also one of the main factors that influenced me being a stay-at-home mom. But I enjoyed the flexibility of me being home with the children, being able to be involved in their lives without anything else hindering me. So I figured trying to get like a formal job, I would have to answer to somebody, and that somebody is not going to be able to. It's very rare that you find bosses or companies that understand that as a mother or as a parent, you may need to leave when you're not supposed to leave. So there's no flexibility there. So starting a business for me it would bring, I thought it would bring more flexibility. I work my own hours and I can work with my children and not have to worry about babysitters and stuff like that. And they will also have opportunity to actually learn about running a business from a very tender age, which is something that I never had. And also the fact that I have a talent that people kept raving about the food I cooked, my recipes and stuff like that. So again, with my husband's influence and pushing and encouragement, we figured this would be a better way to go about helping our financial situations.
I think that's a great motivation to start a business. I mean, there's a reason for family, like you mentioned, and it could be also a good learning opportunity for them. And also, I guess managing your timeline with your spouse and, just planning things. I think it's a great learning curve. And, I think that newcomers can learn from your experiences and your stories. So that's really great. Yeah. What is the biggest challenge that you encounter in operating your business? Like, how do you overcome those challenges?
Oh my goodness, that's I always look at my life like when you ask, when I think of these things, I'm like, oh boy, how did I even get here? How am I even doing so far? So I'm most people do not know this, but I'm shy and I like to just stay in the background. I just want to work in behind the scenes and get things moving without being on the spotlight. And you can't really do that with a business. You have to be out there. You have to meet people. You have to talk to people about your project. You have to get them interested in trying your product. So that has been a biggest challenge for me, even just like having online presence and just showing my face, like even being here on a Zoom meeting with you. I'm like, oh my goodness, how am I going to do that?
Okay, it's fine. You're doing great.
But so it's something that I'm overcoming daily. I wouldn't say I've overcome it already. Like daily, I have to push myself to grow out of my shell and just get comfortable in my own skin and just be out there and suppress those nerves or shake them out and meet other people, get out there, talk to people and stuff like that. So yeah, it's an ongoing journey.
Right.
Definitely.
I think I completely relate to that as well. Like when I first got to Canada, Saskatoon, I was like a super, super shy person.
Yeah.
I still kind of am, and people don't believe me.
I know, right?
I know. What I did was to create this persona when I speak English, right? So I would be this super outgoing, very social person when I speak English, so that I can speak with more people, so that I can actually learn the language.
Right.
So it's like I almost have two personas, first persona, shy, and second persona.
Hey, it's a plan as long as it works.
Right? Yeah, as long as it works.
Yeah, for sure.
What is the common myth or I guess misbelief about operating a business, and something that you want to debunk?
Oh, many people like myself, I used to think that as long as you're good at something, you can definitely run a business. Like I was good at developing recipes and cooking and serving people and stuff like that. So I figure, you know what, I cook unique food, flavorful food, wholesome food. Everybody I've cooked for loves my food. So if people love my stuff, then I can easily do a business. And once I start the business, then I'm going to make money right away. But no, it doesn't work like that. Many businesses do not make money right away. I mean, there's a few that are fortunate enough to make money right away, but for the greater part, especially the first year, it's just putting in more work, more resources, and just keeping at it, promotions and letting people know your product, giving a lot of samples just to get people to do it. And all that takes money, which I guess for our, speaking for ourselves as immigrants who are trying to live a life here, support people back home, and also plan for our children's future, our own future, it's a stretch. So no, business does not just happen right away. So people shouldn't give up in the first month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year of business. You just have to keep at it, and eventually it will get to a point where you can actually make a profit and make money.
So even though it might take a few months or even a year to pick up, it's worthwhile.
Oh yeah,
Mm.
it's worthwhile. I guess it's more like a baby,
Oh,
right? You get pregnant and you're pregnant for 9 months. You don't have your baby as soon as you get pregnant. So you just have to wait, and in the process of waiting, you are preparing. You're buying baby clothes, you're buying this, cribs and this and that. You're planning for their education and stuff like that. So, but if you stop, then you won't have anything.
I think that's a great analogy. I've never heard that before.
Yeah,
Baby. Yeah.
that's yeah. I guess that's why a lot of people talk of their businesses as my baby. This is my baby. This,
Mm,
I'm nurturing this and growing this.
mm. Like, what advice then would you give to newcomers who are, looking to start their own businesses? Especially maybe also like for women who are trying to juggle their family life and also trying to plan their businesses, right? What advice
Yeah.
would you give to them?
You have to just put your mind to it.
Mm,
A lot of immigrant women have sort of like a similar culture where the woman is expected or naturally just goes into the looking after everybody part. So that leaves us with not a lot of time to do, forget business, even self-care, to just have time to yourself.
mm,
And yet there are a lot of talented women coming into Canada who just have to either sort of forget about their talents and just focus on working to bring in money.
mm,
But my advice that I would give to any immigrant woman who is talented and is extra good at what they do and has the willpower to work and put energy into it, I would just say go for it. Get in touch with places like Women's Business Hub that can help you to just get there, because I tried for years
mm,
to sell stuff on Kijiji, you'd post on Facebook and stuff like that, but you don't, if you don't know, you don't know.
mm,
So just get out there, don't live in a shell,
mm,
connect with people, talk to people, to anybody. I like what you say, that you develop this persona where you talk to anybody and everybody. You're being social because you wanted, in your case, you wanted to practice your English, right?
yeah.
But it also works in, if you are trying to do a business, talk to everybody and anyone, whether you're sitting on a bus going home, whether you are at the mall and somebody's approachable, just talk to anybody, have small talk. You just never know who you're talking to, and you just never know what information you'll get. I talk to people once I overcome my shyness and I kind of feel comfortable and bring myself to talk to a person. Like, I find it very easy to talk to the soccer moms at my kids' soccer, and my husband often says, "You talk too much." But I'm like, no, actually, I don't talk too much. I talk too much once I get comfortable with people. But
Mm,
I have learned a lot from just talking to the next person, and it has helped me overcome that shyness. I can easily talk to another mom. I can easily talk to a parent with a kid. And that's, by the way, how I ended up figuring, you know what, there's a business in what I do,
mm,
because from talking to people. So just get out there. Don't stay in your shell like I did for years.
mm.
Just get out there. Don't be shy. Talk to people. Just have small talk and research. Get all the information you want, any resources you get your hands on.
Mhm.
Make use of it.
I mean, I think that's really great advice. I would add, like, on top of that, like, fake your shyness. For
Oh yeah.
instance, like what I did, I pretended that I'm not shy. Because as long as you like make it like good, then people wouldn't notice, oh, she's like, introverted or shy or she's
Yeah,
nervous, It's like if
yeah,
you acted good enough.
for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So that's a nice segue to our next question. So like how did Women's Business Hub help your journey?
Confidence, really.
Mm,
I There's just something about the environment, having women,
mhm,
smart women, business women who
mhm,
are immigrants just like you
yeah.
in one room
Mhm,
discussing business, sharing ideas. It boosted my confidence in a major way and helped me discover myself and things that I didn't know about myself, that I could actually be a very good business person. I am very, very smart. I have so many ideas, smart ideas brewing in my head that without talking to anybody,
mhm,
I would not know myself without voicing them out. So
mhm,
Women's Business Hub has provided that platform where we work together with other business women. I always talk to Shahira and say, this is like a sisterhood to me. We bounce off ideas off of each other. I could be having an issue with a certain section of my business. And as I voice it out and we talk about it, the next person who's not even in the same business as myself actually gives a really, really good idea that would open up my mind and help me sort out what I am struggling with. We've also had the opportunity to attend several business networking events and being in touch with business mentors, small business mentorship programs and stuff like that. And just having somebody patting your back and saying, good job. It's overrated, but my goodness, it is the best thing you can ever have, having another woman patting your back and telling you how amazing you are. So that's the biggest thing really for Women's Business Hub that it has done for me. And for
mhm.
that, I'm forever grateful.
Yeah, I think you pointed out something really important, and I think it's really crucial. Like, until you see the actual like representation of immigrants, and especially women, like female immigrants, starting businesses and planning their own, operations, before you actually see them, then you really don't feel like, can I, be the person who owns a business and, doing the businesses, right? So I think
Oh, yeah.
that played a big part in your also journey, right?
Yeah, for sure. And just also knowing
Mm-hmm.
that you can't really run a business without a business plan.
Mm,
That's just working on the business plan, because I think we spent a greater section of our program in working on a business plan.
mm-hmm,
How there's just no way it's doable without a plan.
mm-hmm,
If we plan for our lives, we need to plan for our businesses too. And throughout working, as you work through the business plan, you discover and realize why you couldn't do it on your own, because there's so many things that you get into, like even just pricing in itself. I realized, wow, I was like literally giving away my food when I thought I was actually selling.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I could talk the whole day about the business plan, and that is one thing that the Women's Business Hub has really helped us, and
Mm,
that's really where you grow from.
right. I
Yeah,
mean, we might even invite you again in the future to talk about that business plan.
for sure. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm more than happy to give what I know, what I've learned.
thank you so much. Yeah, so we're gonna move on to our last part of the question, because the show is coming to an end. So if you could just give thanks to three most influential people in your life.
Wow. My husband,
Mm,
he doesn't stop.
like you don't?
He doesn't stop pushing. Is
Oh, I
like,
see.
you can do this. You have to do this. I see it in you.
Mm,
I am so grateful that I have a husband who also has an entrepreneurship mind.
mm,
so that helps me keep going and maintain the drive. And my mother is just this strong woman who has overcome a lot of things in her life. And how she does it, I have no idea. How she wears a smile and she's so pleasant every time you talk to her. So I draw my strength from her. And I would say a whole lot of friends, as a person, I would put them in one body, because I have so many friends who also believe in me, who are calling me when I actually need it and just encouraging me and telling me that I can do it. And friends who, both immigrant and Canadians, who have gone through a similar journey or unrelated journeys altogether, but them just knowing that this is what I'm working on and they're there for me. So I would say those three people, or two people and one body structure.
Yeah. That's a great answer.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the last question that I had for you today. And yeah, I mean, I hope you did as well, but I really enjoyed this conversation and I really learned a lot and I discovered a lot of commonality between you.
Well, thanks for having me
Well,
and helping me grow and beat my shyness.
thank you to that. Doing the same for me. Okay, so yeah, thank you for joining us today, and we might invite you again. So yeah, but for now, this is a goodbye, and have a great day, Marcia.
Fantastic.
All right, so that's the end of our first episode today, and I thank Lauren and Marcia again for joining our shows. And email ESU registrations at sods.sk.ca or call 306-653-4464 to register for a variety of employment assistance services and skills program, and also to learn more about opportunities, just like Lauren and Marcia mentioned. Yeah, so that is the end of our episode, and have a nice day, everyone, and thank you again for listening us today. Bye-bye.